James Porter stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, barely recognizing the calm, emotionless face that looked back at him. The mandatory genetic modifications had changed something deep inside him. The fire that once burned in his eyes, the same fire that had made him an excellent Marine, was now just a dim flicker. "Emotional stability check required," announced the house eye. James pressed his palm against the scanner mounted on the wall. A soft blue light pulsed as it measured his hormone levels and neural patterns. Status: acceptable civilized levels detected. Have a peaceful day, Cultural Compliance Officer Porter. He straightened his plain gray uniform, the official outfit of all human representatives working with the Galactic Coalition. 5 years had passed since first contact, and 3 since Earth had been invited to join galactic civilization. The aliens had called Earth a deathworld, a planet so harsh that it produced dangerous, aggressive species. They claimed humans needed help to become civilized. Outside his apartment, the streets of New Washington looked nothing like the city he'd grown up in. The Coalition's influence was everywhere. Combat sports centers had been replaced with harmony gardens. Bars and clubs were now emotional balance centers. Even the food had changed. The Coalition insisted that consuming meat made species more aggressive. James walked to the train station, passing a group of school children. They moved in perfect lines, their faces eerily serene. No pushing, no laughing, no running. Just quiet, orderly movement. The sight made his stomach turn, but the genetic modifications kept his face neutral. At work, the Coalition's central office buzzed with quiet activity. James's job was to ensure other humans maintained proper civilized behavior. Today's task: investigating reports of an illegal boxing gym. Officer Porter, his alien supervisor, Administrator Kex, called out. The tall, slender being's translucent skin pulsed with gentle colors, a sign of approval. Your hormone levels have been exceptionally stable this quarter. You're a prime example of successful human civilization. Thank you, Administrator, James replied, his voice carefully measured. I live to serve the greater harmony. But as he sat at his desk, memories of his past life flickered through his mind. The thrill of combat training, the rush of competitive sports, the passion of unfiltered emotions, all declared barbaric by the Coalition. They claimed these changes were for humanity's own good, but James remembered the truth. The aliens hadn't come to help Earth. They had come because they were afraid. He opened the report about the illegal gym. The location was in an old warehouse district. As he reviewed the details, his enhanced hearing picked up a conversation from the nearby break room. The human genetic modifications are proceeding faster than expected, one alien voice said. Phase 2 can begin earlier than planned. Excellent, another replied. The sooner we can complete the breeding restrictions, the safer the galaxy will be. These Deathworlders must not be allowed to spread. James's modified genetics kept his face calm, but deep inside, past the layers of artificial serenity, something stirred. He thought of his daughter, Amy, who had been born just before the modifications became mandatory. She used to dance and sing with wild abandon. Now she sat quietly in her room, creating the approved harmonious art that all children were taught to make. As he prepared to investigate the illegal gym, James made a decision. Instead of shutting it down, he would take a closer look. Perhaps these uncivilized humans had the right idea. Perhaps it was time to remember what humanity used to be. Walking out of the office, he passed a large screen displaying the Coalition's motto, Harmony through Civilization. Below it, in smaller text, was the phrase that every human had been taught. We must rise above our violent nature. But James was beginning to understand a crucial truth. What the aliens called violence, humans called strength. What they labeled as barbaric, humans knew as passion. And what the Coalition feared wasn't humanity's aggression, it was humanity's potential. The illegal gym waited in the warehouse district, and with it perhaps the first step toward remembering what it truly meant to be human. The old warehouse smelled of sweat and determination. James stood in the shadows, watching people punch heavy bags and spar in a makeshift boxing ring. These were uncivilized humans, people who had somehow avoided the genetic modifications. Their movements were fluid, powerful, and most importantly, full of life. "You gonna stand there all night, compliance officer?" A deep voice spoke behind him. James turned to face a tall man with gray hair and scars from what looked like old battle wounds. "Name's Tom. I run this place." Instead of reporting them, James found himself asking, "How? How did you avoid the modifications?" Tom's weathered face broke into a slight smile. "Some of us found ways. Military doctors who remembered what we used to be. Scientists who saw what was coming. We've been building a network." As they talked, James watched a young woman practicing kicks. Her movements reminded him of Amy, his daughter, from before the changes. Just yesterday, Amy's school had called. She hadn't produced any harmonious art for a week. The teachers were concerned about destructive tendencies because she'd drawn a thunderstorm instead of the usual peaceful landscapes. "Your daughter," Tom said, as if reading his thoughts. "How old was she when they started the treatments?" 8, James replied, his modified genetics unable to fully suppress the pain in his voice. "She used to dance. Now she just sits." Tom nodded grimly. "We found something. The Coalition's been keeping it secret, but their plan goes deeper than just making us civilized. Here, look at this." He led James to a back room and showed him a data tablet. Medical charts filled the screen, showing human birth rates over the past 3 years. They had dropped by 40%. "The modifications don't just change our behavior," Tom explained. "They're slowly making us sterile. In 2 generations, there won't be enough of us left to matter." James felt something break through his emotional dampeners. Real fear, raw and sharp. How many others know about this? Enough. We have cells in every major city. Some of the old military networks are still active, hidden from Coalition surveillance. We've even found a way to reverse the modifications, but we need help distributing it. Someone on the inside. Before James could respond, alarms blared through the warehouse. Coalition security forces were coming. Tom quickly pressed a small device into James's hand. "Think about what I said. When you're ready, press the green button. It'll lead you to us." James slipped out through a back door just as Coalition hovercrafts appeared overhead. He walked calmly away, his modified genetics keeping his face neutral despite the turmoil inside. At home that night, he found Amy sitting in her room, staring at a blank canvas. The art supplies the Coalition provided lay untouched. "I can't feel the colors anymore, Dad," she whispered. "I try to paint, but everything's quiet. Too quiet." James pulled out the device Tom had given him and studied it. The choice before him was clear. Remain civilized and watch humanity slowly die, or risk everything to save what made them human. That night, he couldn't sleep. Through his window, he watched the Coalition's patrol ships floating above the city, their soft blue lights supposedly bringing peace and harmony. But now he saw them for what they really were, prison guards. He thought about the fire he'd seen in the eyes of the fighters at the warehouse. It was the same fire that used to burn in humanity's greatest artists, pioneers, and leaders. The same fire the Coalition had decided was too dangerous to allow. James looked at the device again. The green button seemed to pulse in the darkness, promising either salvation or destruction. But as he heard Amy tossing restlessly in her room, caught in another emotionally dampened nightmare, he realized something important. A civilization that had to be forced wasn't really civilization at all. And peace without passion wasn't really peace. It was just surrender. Tomorrow, he would press the button. Tomorrow, he would begin to remember what it meant to be truly human. And maybe, just maybe, he could help his daughter remember how to dance again. The green button had led James to an old subway tunnel deep beneath the city. Here, surrounded by flickering emergency lights, he found more than just a resistance. He found humanity's last real hope. The Coalition's planning something big, Tom said, pointing to a wall of information screens. They're not satisfied with just changing us anymore. They want to change Earth itself. The screens showed Coalition terraforming ships arriving in orbit. James watched as more data scrolled past. Plans to calm Earth's oceans, reduce the gravity, thin the atmosphere. They wanted to make Earth as peaceful as their own worlds. They're calling Earth's wildlife too dangerous. Another resistance member named Lisa explained. She pulled up images of Earth's remaining forests. They've already started removing predators from Africa. Lions, tigers, wolves, all being relocated to Coalition preservation facilities. James felt sick. The emotional dampeners couldn't fully suppress his horror. They're trying to erase everything that made us who we are. Exactly, Tom said. But we found something interesting. Look at this. He showed James a medical scan of a Coalition alien. Their bodies are built for their gentle worlds. That's why they fear us. We're stronger, faster, more adaptable. Even with the modifications, we still terrify them. A sudden commotion interrupted them. A group of resistance members rushed in, carrying someone. James recognized the uniform, another compliance officer. Found him outside the old sports center, one of them said. He took the cure. The reversal hit him hard. James watched as they helped the man through the genetic modification reversal. The process looked painful, but when it was done, something remarkable happened. The man's eyes cleared. Real emotions played across his face. Fear, confusion, then pure joy. I can feel again, he whispered, tears running down his face. Everything's so bright, so real. But they had little time to celebrate. Alarms blared through the tunnel. Coalition forces had found one of their other hideouts. They're moving faster than we expected, Tom said grimly. They must know we found a way to reverse the modifications. James, we need your help. You're still trusted inside the system. We need to know when they're planning to start the major terraforming. James thought of Amy, of her fading spirit. He thought of Earth's wild places, of its powerful storms and dangerous beauty. All of it about to be tamed, sanitized, destroyed. There's a central planning meeting tomorrow, he said. All senior compliance officers are required to attend. They're announcing something big. Can you get us in? James nodded. Better. I can get you their whole security schedule. But first, he looked at the medical bay where they kept the cure. I want to remember who I really am. The reversal process burned through his body like fire. The emotional dampeners fought back, but slowly, the artificial calm began to crack. Colors became brighter, sounds sharper, feelings, real, powerful feelings, flooded back. When it was done, James sat up, gasping. The world felt almost too real, too intense, but for the first time in years, he felt truly alive. Welcome back, Tom said, helping him stand. How does it feel? James looked at his hands, feeling strength flow back into his muscles, like waking up from a long nightmare. But their work was far from over. Through the tunnels, they could hear Coalition announcements echoing from the streets above. Attention, citizens. Due to concerning signs of emotional instability, all humans are required to report for additional modification treatments. They're scared, Lisa said. They know they're losing control. James stood up straighter, feeling the old warrior spirit returning. Good. They should be scared, because we're done being their idea of civilized. In his pocket, his phone buzzed. A message from Amy's school. She had finally broken down, screaming and crying in art class, the emotional dampeners failing to contain her pain. It was time. The Coalition had tried to tame humanity's spirit. Instead, they were about to learn why Earth was called a death world, and why its people had survived its challenges for so long. The breaking point had arrived, and humanity was ready to break free. The Coalition's central meeting hall buzzed with quiet activity. James sat among rows of other compliance officers, his restored emotions carefully hidden behind years of practiced calm. His heart pounded with real fear and excitement, sensations that still felt new and raw after years of dampening. Administrator Keck stood at the podium, his translucent skin glowing with soft blues. "The terraforming of Earth will begin in 3 days," he announced. "All wildlife relocation must be completed within 48 hours. Any resistant specimens will be eliminated." James typed quickly on his hidden communicator, sending the information to the resistance. But then Kex said something that made his blood freeze. "Additionally, all human children will begin enhanced modification treatments tomorrow. We can no longer risk emotional instability in the younger generation." Images of Amy flashed through James's mind. Her art class breakdown had already flagged her for treatment. They were going to take away whatever small spark of humanity she had left. He stood up suddenly, unable to contain himself. Every head turned toward him. "Officer Porter." Kex's skin rippled with confusion. "Is there a problem?" James forced himself to sound calm. "No, Administrator. I merely wish to volunteer my daughter for the first treatment group, to set an example." Kex's colors shifted to pleased purple. "Excellent initiative, Porter. Report with her to Medical Center 1 at dawn." Instead of going home, James headed straight to the resistance tunnels. The underground space had changed. More people, more equipment, more hope. Word of the cure had spread. Every day, more modified humans found their way here, seeking to remember who they really were. "They're going to enhance the modifications on the children," James told Tom and Lisa. "Tomorrow at dawn, and the terraforming begins in 3 days." "Then we move tonight," Lisa said. She pulled up a map of the city's medical centers. "We've got enough of the cure now. We can hit all major medical facilities at once." Tom nodded. "The Coalition won't expect it. They think their modifications make us predictable. They forget that humans are best at adapting to survive." They split into teams. James led his group toward Medical Center 1, where Amy would have been taken tomorrow. The building's smooth white walls glowed softly in the night. 2 Coalition guards stood at the entrance, their bodies relaxed. They hadn't faced real resistance in years. The attack was swift and silent. Years of military training, restored by the cure, flowed back into their movements. Within minutes, they had control of the building. "Start with the children's ward," James ordered. "Any kid flagged for enhanced modification gets the cure first." They worked through the night. In room after room, children woke up to real feelings for the first time in years. Some cried, some laughed, some did both. Each awakening was like watching a flower bloom in fast motion. Near dawn, James found Amy's name on the next day's treatment list. He erased it, replacing it with a false completion note. She would never have to face enhanced modifications now. But as the sun rose, alarms began to sound across the city. The Coalition had discovered their actions. Emergency broadcasts filled the air. "Attention citizens. Dangerous emotional contamination has been detected. Remain in your homes. Coalition peacekeepers are en route." Through the medical center's windows, James watched Coalition ships fill the sky. But something was different now. The sight didn't fill him with programmed peace or artificial calm. Instead, he felt something his ancestors must have felt when facing great challenges: determination, courage, and the fierce joy of fighting for survival. "They're locking down the city," Lisa reported, rushing in. "But we've already cured over 1,000 people. It's spreading faster than they can contain it." James smiled, a real wild smile that felt strange on his face. "Let them come. Humanity's about to remind them why we survived a Deathworld." Outside, the first rays of sun caught the Coalition ships, making them glow like angry stars. But Earth's own star burned brighter, warming the blood of its awakening children. The true test was about to begin. And this time, humanity would fight with both passion and purpose. Coalition ships circled Medical Center 1 like angry wasps, James watched from the windows as their troops deployed, their movements perfect and predictable. That was their weakness. They had forgotten how to deal with chaos. Status report. He called over the Resistance's comm system. Medical centers 3 and 4 secured. Lisa's voice crackled back. 2,000 more people cured. The coalition's losing control of the outer districts. Tom's voice joined in. You need to see this, James. Turn on any video feed. On the medical center screens, incredible scenes played out across the city. Cured humans were fighting back in ways the coalition never expected. A group of former athletes had turned the Harmony Gardens into defensive positions. Street dancers were using their agility to outmaneuver coalition troops. Even the children were helping, their restored creativity finding ways to confuse the enemy sensors. This is why they feared us, Tom said. We don't just fight. We adapt. We create. We turn anything into a tool for survival. Suddenly, Amy's voice came through James's personal communicator. Dad, the coalition's at our house. They're looking for me. James's heart raced. Where are you? I remembered what you taught me about emergency hiding spots. I'm in the maintenance tunnels under the house. Dad, I'm scared, but it feels different now. Real. Like I'm actually feeling it, not just pretending. The dampeners are wearing off on their own, Lisa explained. The more emotional stress people experience, the faster their bodies fight back against the modifications. James made a quick decision. Tom, take command here. I'm getting my daughter. He moved through the city's shadows, using skills from his Marine days that had been sleeping, not dead. The coalition forces were everywhere, but they were looking for large groups, not single fighters. Near his house, he found something unexpected. His neighbors, the same people who had been perfectly civilized for years, were causing distractions to help others escape. Mr. Reed, the old music teacher, was playing band music so loud it confused the coalition's sonic sensors. Mrs. Chen from next door had turned her approved garden into a maze of false readings for their scanners. James found Amy exactly where she said she'd be. When she saw him, she did something she hadn't done in years. She ran to him and hugged him hard. Dad, I can feel everything, she whispered. It's overwhelming, but I don't want it to stop. It won't, he promised. We're taking back who we are. But as they emerged from the tunnels, they found themselves surrounded by coalition peacekeepers. Administrator Kex himself stood at their head, his skin pulsing angry red. Officer Porter, Kex said, his voice heavy with disappointment. You were our greatest success story. Look how you've corrupted yourself with these emotions. James stood straight, pushing Amy behind him. No, you didn't make us successful. You made us slaves. Human emotions aren't a corruption. They're our strength. Kex raised his hand, signaling his troops to prepare their weapons. You're proving why your species needs to be controlled. All this violence, this disorder, is how we survived, James shouted. Earth isn't gentle. Life isn't gentle. We became strong because we had to. Our emotions, our drive to fight, to create, to love. That's not our weakness. That's how we lived through everything our world threw at us. Something exploded in the distance. The Resistance was making its move on the Coalition's orbital control stations. Without those, their ships would be grounded. Kex's skin paled. You're supposed to be civilized now. Predictable. Safe. James smiled. A real fierce smile that made the Coalition troops step back. That's your mistake. You thought taking away our emotions would make us safer. Instead, you just taught us to think coldly about how to beat you. The sky lit up as the first orbital station fell. The revolution wasn't just starting. It was everywhere, in every person waking up to their true feelings, in every act of creative defiance, in every moment of recovered humanity. The spark had become a fire. And like everything else that tried to tame humanity, the Coalition was about to learn why Earth was called a death world. The real fight was just beginning. The orbiting coalition stations fell one by one, burning bright against the dawn sky. On the streets below, James and Amy ran through the chaos as Administrator Kex's forces gave chase. But they weren't running away. They were leading them into a trap. Now, James shouted into his communicator. The street ahead erupted with activity. Pure humans emerged from hiding spots, using everything from construction equipment to sports gear as weapons. Former Olympic gymnasts swung from buildings, dropping smoke bombs. Street performers used their skills to confuse and distract the coalition troops. "This is impossible," Kex screamed, his skin flashing between colors in panic. "The modifications should have removed all these primitive skills. You don't understand humans at all," James said, turning to face him. "We don't forget. We adapt. We hide. We wait. Every restriction you put on us just taught us to be more creative in fighting back." Across the city, the revolution was turning the coalition's own civilized changes against them. The mandatory calm they'd forced on humans had created warriors who could think clearly in chaos. The emotional control that made people who could plan without fear clouding their judgment. Tom's voice crackled over the comm. "James, we've got incoming transmissions. You're not going to believe this." On every screen in the city, new images appeared. Other worlds, other species were rising up. The coalition's other civilized races had watched humanity's rebellion and found their own courage. "Your species has doomed the galactic peace," Kex said, backing away as more humans surrounded him. "Your violence will spread like a disease." Amy stepped forward, her young face fierce with restored emotion. "No, we're spreading freedom. The ability to feel, to choose, to be ourselves. That's not violence. That's life." A massive explosion lit up the sky. The coalition's main control center, their symbol of power over Earth, began to collapse. Lisa's team had succeeded in their mission. "All ships grounded," Tom reported. "The coalition's fleet is trapped in our gravity well. They can't escape Earth's dangerous pull now." James watched as the coalition troops began to surrender. Without their ships, without their control stations, they were learning a hard lesson about their own kind of civilization. It had made them weak, dependent on technology and control rather than inner strength. "Listen to me," James called out to the surrendering coalition forces. "We don't want to destroy you. Unlike you, we don't believe in forcing our way of life on others. But we will be free. Earth will remain as it is, wild, dangerous, alive. And humanity will remain true to its nature." The news from other worlds kept coming in. The Centauri, another Deathworld species, had overthrown their coalition controllers. The Rigelians, modified into near extinction, were using the cure to restore their species. Everywhere, the false peace was crumbling. Administrator Kex fell to his knees, his skin gone pale with defeat. "You don't understand what you've done. The galaxy needs order, control." "No," James said firmly. "The galaxy needs balance, strength and gentleness, passion and peace. That's what you never understood. Trying to remove one just makes the other toxic." Amy walked over to the coalition ships that now sat powerless on the ground. With a child's restored creativity, she began to draw on their smooth surfaces, not the peaceful scenes the coalition had demanded, but real art, storms and sunlight, struggle and triumph, the full range of life's experiences. "This is who we are," James said, watching his daughter create. "We can be civilized without losing our strength. We can be peaceful without losing our passion. But we have to choose it freely, not have it forced upon us." The sun rose fully over the city, revealing the scale of humanity's victory. But it wasn't just a victory of force. It was a triumph of the human spirit. They had proven that true civilization didn't mean surrendering your nature. It meant embracing all of it, the gentle and the fierce, the peaceful and the powerful. The revolution wasn't just succeeding. It was teaching the galaxy a lesson about what real civilization meant. 3 months after the revolution, James stood at his window watching Earth come alive again. In the streets below, children played freely, their laughter no longer restrained by emotional dampeners. Sports fields had reopened, and the sounds of honest competition filled the air. Even the weather seemed wilder, more natural, now that the Coalition's atmospheric controls were gone. "Dad, come look at this," Amy called from her room. He found her surrounded by paintings, real ones, full of storm clouds and sunsets, dragons and warriors. But what she pointed to wasn't a painting. It was a communication screen showing news from across the galaxy. The Coalition's former headquarters had become the center of the new Galactic Alliance. Representatives from every freed world gathered there, including the reformed Coalition species who had chosen to join them. But this time, no one was forced to change their nature. "Look," Amy said excitedly, pointing to one image. The Centauri brought back their warrior dances, and the Regellians are teaching everyone about surviving on harsh worlds. James smiled, remembering how quickly things had changed. After Earth's successful rebellion, other Deathworld species had quickly joined forces. Together, they formed something new, an alliance that celebrated strength while respecting peace. Tom appeared on the screen, now Earth's representative to the alliance. "James, you seeing this? The Coalition's former worlds are requesting survival training. They want to learn how to be strong without losing their peaceful nature." "And we're teaching them?" James asked. "Better than that. We're learning from them too. Their arts, their sciences, their ways of finding harmony. Turns out they weren't wrong about everything. They just went about it the wrong way." The screen shifted to show Lisa, who was leading the restoration of Earth's modified wildlife. Lions roared in their restored habitats. Wolves ran freely in rebuilt forests. Earth was becoming itself again. The Coalition's biggest mistake, Lisa reported, wasn't trying to create peace. It was thinking peace meant weakness. "We're proving you can be both strong and gentle." In the city center, where the Coalition's control tower once stood, a new building rose. Its design combined the smooth elegance of Coalition architecture with the robust strength of Earth style. Inside, humans worked alongside former Coalition species, each bringing their own strengths to build something better than either could create alone. Administrator Kex, now learning Earth's ways as part of his rehabilitation, approached James at the building's opening ceremony. His skin showed new colors, ones that reflected real emotions, not programmed responses. "I never understood," Kex admitted, watching Amy teach some Coalition children how to paint with bold, fierce strokes. "We thought we were lifting you up, but we were really just trying to bring you down to where we felt safe." James nodded. The strong don't need to make others weak to prove their strength. Real civilization is about rising together. As if to prove his point, a thunderstorm rolled in, the kind the Coalition would have once suppressed. But instead of running for shelter, humans and aliens alike stood watching in awe as lightning split the sky. The Coalition species were learning to appreciate the beauty in nature's power, just as humans were learning new ways to find peace without losing their edge. That evening, James attended the first Galactic Cultural Festival. The same underground spaces that had once hidden the Resistance now hosted performances from across the galaxy. Humans demonstrated martial arts alongside Coalition dances. Children from both species played games that combined strategy with physical skill. Amy's artwork was displayed prominently, a series of paintings showing the revolution, but not just its battles. She had captured the moment of awakening, the joy of restored emotions, the power of different species learning to respect each other's strengths. "Do you think they'll ever try to control us again?" she asked, watching the celebration. James looked at the mixed crowd, at former enemies becoming friends, at strength and gentleness finding their balance. "No," he said confidently, "because we've taught them something important. True civilization isn't about taming your nature, it's about mastering it. And that's something you can only do when you're free." The storm continued outside, its power matched by the energy of the celebration within. Earth had kept its wildness, its danger, its strength. But now those qualities weren't feared. They were respected, understood, and balanced with new wisdom. The Deathworlders had not just survived. They had shown the galaxy a better way to live.